What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Sitting with Smitty. If you guys are new here, I'm Smitty. I hope you guys are sitting because I'm here too. And this is episode 67. So in episode 66, we covered the great book, The Great Gatsby. And The Great Gatsby is about a businessman who, moved to the city from a small town and found his fortune. But he felt empty because he yearned for love. And now that doesn't connect to anything that we're going to talk about today. Because today, we're talking about STEM careers. And more importantly, my favorite STEM career, biologists. And not only are we going to talk about biology and biologists, but the different fields that they can go into with this. So biology is a science STEM field where there are lots and lots of job opportunities. And it's honestly probably one of the best fields, in my opinion, to get into, because the population is growing and it's always going to grow. So the more people that we have trying to figure out, how humans can live better, the better. And so these can include biology teachers, like our future guest on this show here, coming up in a later segment. Biologists, biochemists, and geneticists. And the most important one on this list for the future and the outlook of this country is geneticists. And so what they're going to do is they're going to look at genetics of animals, humans, and figure out how to modify those genes so that we can get rid of, things like cancer and other, terminal diseases. And while there are a lot of mixed feelings about that, it can be good and it can be bad as well. And for our human race, I think it can be good for a certain extent. I feel when you have people that are terminally ill and we can prevent that, I feel like that's a very good use. But if we're just trying to prevent, maybe something like a common cold, that's not something that we really need to prevent because it's very minor. And that's what geneticists are for. They're going to figure out those problems and figure that out for the future. Biologist, more importantly, this is our broad spectrum. They're a scientist that studies living things and organisms and how they interact with the environment and the process that governs their existence. So how they came, whether it was evolution or if us humans, we bred them, or, ranging from tiny cells, things that we're going to look into microscopes for, or entire ecosystems, like Africa, we got the savanna, or the Arctic, where we'll have our polar bears, our penguins, our seals, our sea lions. Honestly, some of my favorite animals live down in the Arctic. I love penguins. Penguins are great. But now we're going to send it over to our little interview that we had with biology teacher, college biology teacher, college anatomy and physiology teacher, and Diamond Doctor owner, Chris Bennis, aka Mr. Bennis.
Can't sleep? Counting sheep not doing the trick? Introducing the reverse alarm clock. The world's first clock designed to not wake you up, but knock you out. At a randomly chosen moment, the reverse alarm clock activates and launches a soft, sleep-inducing, lavender-scented pillow directly at your head. You'll never see it coming. And that's the point.
Jacksonville, the community, Duval. I just had the greatest night of sleep ever.
I've been using the reverse alarm clock for the last 3 years of my life, and it has made many improvements. I have nothing but good things to say about it. Go get yours for $54.99.
Here with Mr. Bennis, entrepreneur and biology teacher for college bio, nat and phys, and 10th grade bio. So first question for you, Mr. Bennis. How did you decide on pursuing a career in biology?
I think it probably started back in high school. I had some pretty good biology teachers, and I was always kind of interested in the area, but probably more so was driven by my athletic career in high school, and I tended to be injured a lot, so I spent a lot of time with trainers and physical therapists and occupational therapists for recovery time, and I really thought their jobs were pretty cool, and I thought about that's what I was going to go into, and so I just decided that I definitely knew that I was probably more geared towards biology than anything else when I went into college.
And how have you done any extra studies during your time in college or in your early career?
Not so much running studies myself. I've been part, as any college kid trying to make money, I was part of Prax Institutes, which are studies done on you when they're trying to test drugs and stuff like that, just because it was easy within that area. So part of studies, but didn't run studies myself.
How has your family helped you being in your field? If you wanted to kind of speak to kind of how you talk about in our college bio class about, you know, your family dynamic.
Yeah, I think it honestly started a lot back when I was in college. My mom was sick with cancer, and so that kind of drove me even more a little bit to find out, because I knew that I was learning a lot more from actual experience than actually what I was learning class to class, you know, sitting in a, you know, anatomy classroom or whatever. But then that surprisingly, after being a science teacher for 10 years and then having our son Bjorn, who's special needs, you know, it's just been a wealth of information that's come in just by having him as my son, but we also feel really good about the idea that my wife's in the medical or in the healthcare field, and with me teaching anatomy and physiology, we've been able to take good care of them just because of our knowledge base within there. So whether that was meant to be or not, it's hard to say, but we know we've been able to give Bjorn a little better life just because of our knowledge compared to people that don't know what's going on. It would be a pretty daunting task to raise a son with as many needs as he has, but for us it's been good. It's been a different path, but it's also been a good path just because we've been comfortable with having most of the information, at least as our background. So,
what is your favorite type of biology to study?
For me, it's always been anatomy and physiology. I was just always, if I wouldn't have been a biology teacher, I would have been a physician's assistant or a nurse practitioner. They didn't exist when I went to school. It was only PTOT, and those programs were overrun, or you went into the med school path. I didn't want to do that much time in college, where now I really think that if I went back in time and had all the same opportunities, I definitely probably would have gone that route, just because I like working with people and helping people in that scenario. But because I can teach anatomy and physiology, it's kind of a close good second, you know, because I'm maybe not doing that job, but I'm able to prep and get kids hopefully ready that want to go into that. So that's probably been about the most rewarding thing for me as a teacher. It's just that it's usually not at graduation, but it's 4 or 5 years down the line when you see those kids coming back for Waterama. It's one of my favorite days, is one of those nights of Waterama, because you see the kids coming back and you find out, you know, who's become nurses or doctors or NPs or, you know, chiropractors or whatever, and you know, and they lots of times have good things to say about how we prepped them and got them ready for school to make life a little bit easier. And that's really the goal, is if we can make, you know, the future easier for kids, that's kind of the end result that we're shooting for.
And what is your favorite part about being a biology teacher? I know you touched on it there.
Yeah, I love working with the kids. You know, I'm getting close to retirement age, but I stay in it just because truly kids keep me young. I'm a teenager at heart, and I'm sarcastic, you know, and I think that, you know, even though I'm 55 years old and a long ways from being a teenager, I enjoy being around that energy. And so that part's been great. But then also, you know, like I said, you know, seeing where kids go from here is really awesome, you know, and seeing how they, you know, kind of blossom when they get out of college, and, you know, what they're able to do, and just, you know, seeing kids achieve, you know, whatever they're going to achieve, whether they're becoming the best farmer in Pope County or whether they're becoming doctors or whatever. It's all pretty cool to watch kids grow and develop that way, and to know that you had it. It's a long wait to see sometimes, because it takes some 5 or 10 years or whatever. My side gig with working on baseball fields, it's immediate satisfaction. With teaching, you don't see it for quite a ways down the line, but you do get that, you know, that information back, and then you feel pretty good about what you're doing.
Last question here for you. Do you have any words of encouragement or anything to help someone interested in a field in biology, whether it's teaching or anything in the related field?
I just think, what going into a science related field or a healthcare related field, knowing that our population has been growing, I think it's a very safe area to go into, because there's going to be jobs in the future just because our population is getting older. A lot of the people doing the current jobs are retiring, and we need people to fill those spots. I can say that for science teachers for a fact, that we need science teachers badly in this world, and it's good. There's getting to be less and less of them all the time because there are other opportunities, which I understand. But any area within science or healthcare is a huge need. So I'd really encourage kids to follow those pursuits, because you kind of have a guaranteed job as long as you're willing to work and try to be the best you can be at that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, wrapping up episode 67 of Sitting with Smitty. Biology and biologists are one of my favorite STEM fields by far, and it's one of the best STEM fields in my opinion because of the amount of flexibility that comes with the job. You can go into so many different areas because biology is such a broad field. You can go from start studying microbiology, like little cells, little organisms, all the way to macrobiology and biochemistry, biology teacher, biologist, or even something more futuristic like a geneticist, where you're going to basically help decide the future race of the world. And it blows my mind, like studying it and learning about it every single day. Like I said earlier, biologists are people who study organisms, whether they're little or small, and conduct experiments on how humanity can continue to prosper in this forever changing Earth and the world we live in, whether it's in space or here on Earth. So I just want to give a few thanks, to Mr. Bennis. Mr. Bennis has a very busy schedule, so if you guys ever see him, take some time to thank him. And he's a great person to talk to if you're interested about biology. I know he gave some tips about, tips and encouragement for people that are interested in a field of biology study. And also a huge shout out again to our sponsor for making this video possible, allowing the production to happen, the Reverse Alarm Clock. I cannot thank them enough, and it's such an amazing product that I use myself. It is great. And I'll see you next time on episode 68 of Sitting with Smitty, where we'll cover something along the lines in the business field maybe. But we might jump back into a different book, maybe something more philosophical. But I'll see you next time.